And then I started to learn about quantum physics, and I started to learn about how everything is energy, right? If we go inside every cell in the body till we can't go any further, the only thing that's left is what's called a quantum atom. You can't touch it. You cannot see it. It is just literally energy.
Welcome back to the Passion to Paycheck Podcast. On today's episode, we have Dr. Anna Marie. Hey, Anna, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it. So to get started, go ahead and let the audience know a little bit about yourself and what you're currently working on.
Well, that's a loaded question. I'm always working on a lot of different things, but I am the owner and founder of Happy Whole You, which is a holistic wellness center located in Bakersfield, California. And we really focus on three main things: increasing your brain function, decreasing body inflammation, and restoring your foundations of health using high-tech pieces of equipment to old school Chinese medicine, holistic health modalities. So that's what I do here in Bakersfield. And then I'm also a keynote public speaker. I also work as a quantum body coach with executives and do one-on-ones with clients from all over.
Awesome.
Nice.
So what got you into the whole holistic wellness?
Well, I had to heal my own brain. So in my early 20s, I found myself depressed, showing up at a psychiatrist's office, and spent, 15 minutes with him. And he put me on 3 mind-altering medications in my early 20s. And knowing what I know now, that is very dangerous. Your brain doesn't even fully develop until you're around 25 years old. Not to mention, between the ages of 18 and 25, there's so much change that we all go through. We go through going from high school or going from having, living with family or whatnot to being on our own and then just trying to navigate the world, which is already a big thing. So yeah, as a good patient, I took the medications and I kept finding myself going on further and further downward spirals. It wasn't until a moment that I went back to the doctor to tell him essentially these medications aren't working for me. And it was interesting because what I noticed, one, I grew more and more irritated as I sat in the office waiting and waiting and waiting. It blows my mind that people will go to a doctor's office and we pay hundreds of dollars to see our doctors. And yet we are waiting for an hour, 90 minutes. It's like our time isn't respected. And I just grew more and more irritated. And I remember thinking to myself, don't they know we're like a bunch of crazy people waiting in this office? And then I look around and the walls are gray and it's just an old.
Not appealing at all.
No, it's not. It's like we're depressed. Like I'm assuming, like we're all depressed. We all have anxiety. We're coming in here and this is such a dungy, gross place. So anyways, I'm already irritated as hell. I go into his office and I sit down and I noticed for the first time, he didn't look at me. He didn't look at my eyes and he looked right down at my paperwork and he just started asking me questions. Do you want to kill yourself? Do you want to hurt other people? Do you see things? It was this line of questioning he had asked me many times before. And then he took out his phone because he had a phone call. He got out his flip phone and started talking on his phone as if I wasn't even there.
Wow.
Holy shit.
My heart started beating super fast. And it was like, I felt so disrespected. And I remember he got off the phone and I wanted to say something. And I was so upset inside after waiting for my appointment, after realizing this guy isn't even acknowledging me as a human in front of him. And I just said to him, I stood up and I said, I don't appreciate you taking a call during our session. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like as if he wasn't sorry at all. And then he went right back to my line of questioning. And I was like, I need to leave. And what I noticed is he had my folder out on his desk. He pulled out 3 prescriptions. He already had written them before I even came in. And I remember I took them from his hand and I walked out of the office. And as I was walking out, there's the check-in area and they actually had the plexiglass up. This is before COVID. So, you're dealing with crazy people. You better put that glass up.
You throw some stuff.
Yeah. And so I remember there was this little gray trash can right under that plexiglass. And I just remember I looked down and I threw them in the trash and I stepped outside and opened the door. And I just remember it was like the sky was blue for the first time. The trees were green. And I had this newfound energy. I was so proud of myself for standing up for myself. And I just, that moment was like, okay, you are the only person that can make you happy in your life. You got to figure this out. And so that's when I set forth on a journey to find some way to not feel so heavy and dead inside. And that's when I started looking into alternative ways. And then learning that those were the ways before medicine. So, you know, so it wasn't like, you know, there was ups and downs between that time, but it was such a pivotal moment. And when we speak up for ourselves, it does something for our spirit and for our minds and just for our soul. And it can feel so hard to use your voice sometimes. And that was a big pivotal
your throat
point.
chakra opened up.
Oh, that's for sure. It was wide open. And so that was a really big pivotal point in my life. And that's when I started diving into, you know, not just what we eat, not just how we move our body, but how we're thinking about our life, how we're speaking about our life, the people we're interacting with, who are we allowing ourselves to have conversations with. Your energy is everything.
Yep.
Because you can always tell when someone you're hanging out with them and they're draining your energy, because all of a sudden you start feeling tired. You're like, why do I feel so tired right now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And looking back, I was probably that person that was exhausting other people. Like I was that person that could spill coffee on myself and I would tell everyone, oh my gosh, I've had such a rough day. I was late for work. I spilled coffee all over myself and this is what's wrong with me and blah, 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 blah. Right. Like as if the world revolved around me. It's like nobody cares.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like nobody cares about all your issues and all your problems, but I showed up in the world just projecting my problems all over. And studying the brain and learning what I know now, it's very fascinating that the very thing that we put in the forefront of our brain will filter the world to validate whatever you're telling yourself. So if you're telling yourself that you're broke and people don't like you and there's no good men or no good women out there, you will filter the world to make sure that that is your truth.
You're manifesting that.
Yeah.
Whatever your mind could believe that you'll conceive.
Yes. 1000%. It's fascinating.
So what was the first thing that you actually found that, because you know it's a journey, it never ends. Even now, right? You came a long way, and I kind of relate to your story. But what was the first thing you found or that you did research on and it started like moving you forward? That was the main thing that started it, but what was the...
Yeah. Honestly, the first thing was like, okay, if we can rewire a computer, we can rewire our brain. So I started looking into how do you rework your brain? And that's what I learned about neuroplasticity.
Wow.
Right? Like we think we're stuck with the brain we have, but what we know in neuroscience is that you can mold a new brain at any point. So if you continuously shift the thoughts in your mind, you create these new neural pathways. And what we don't realize is we have all these neural pathways based on our past experiences. And we start cementing in false neuroassociations. And when I learned about this, I was like, what the heck is that? So let me give you an example. So you go to a job every day and maybe you're not very happy there. It doesn't fulfill you. You're good at it, but you show up, you kind of do it. You're stressed by the end of the day. And then you go home and the first person you see is your spouse or your partner. And when you see them, you're kind of irritated. You just got off a long day of work and they ask you, how was your day? And you're like, and you complain about it and tell them. And then what happens over time is you start going home after work, feeling that emotion at an elevated experience. And then you meet your spouse or your partner and they're asking you, how was your day? Over time, you start associating your partner with that emotion. It creates this neural connection, a neural association. So now you're associating your spouse with stress, with drain, with anxiousness, whatever it is you're feeling. And you don't even realize after 3, 4, 5, 10 years of that. And then they start annoying you every time they ask you how your day was. And all they did was ask you how your day was.
Right. You become programmed at one point.
Right. So you have to reprogram that, right? It's like exercise.
Yeah.
If you keep thinking that, exercising, you're going to feel sore and you just are tired and exercise is so hard. Well, okay, you're going to feel that way every single time. And you're going to start associating exercise with feeling tired and it's so hard versus I bend and flow with ease. Exercise gives me so much energy. Exercise is something that I enjoy to do. It's a blessing I get to do to move my body. So we have all these neuroassociations, and it's really important. And I work with clients on how to recognize those neuroassociations, because a lot of times we don't even realize it.
Being
It's
conscious
there.
of it. I think that's important. Being conscious of it.
Yeah, so it's pretty fascinating. So that was the very first thing, was like, how do I rewire my brain to be a brain of resilience and not a brain of force as well? Because it was like, I would make myself go run a bunch of miles, and I would make myself eat really specifically because I was trying to control everything in my life. So if my body looked a certain way and my body could function a certain way, my neuroassociation was happiness was being fit and thin, because that's what magazines taught me, right? This is before social media.
Yeah.
And so those magazines, that's what they taught me. So when I was very fit and I was eating healthy and I was depressed, I thought, what's wrong with me? Because my association is this should equal happiness.
Right.
This should equal success. This should equal I have a loving relationship with a man, and that wasn't happening.
So the body was right, but the mindset was what's not right.
Right. So this is where, when I work with people, you can be the fittest, like richest person in the world. And if you don't have your mindset right, nothing falls into place. And that's why, like, no matter what client comes across, it's, we think, oh, well, they've got it made because they have this or that, or oh, they have nothing to worry about. And it's very interesting, because I've worked with very wealthy people, and I've worked with people that are, they save their money up just to, do a session with me, or whatever. And it's fascinating, because we all have similar issues, no matter what.
If it's not one thing, it's another.
Yeah.
But it's a journey. So we keep working on ourselves and trying to better ourselves from mentally to, health-wise as well. Which, like you said, it all has to be balanced.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's giving energy to all areas of our life, because, like, one thing if people come to me and they say, oh, I just want to lose weight, I tell them I am not the person for you, because I've helped people lose thousands of pounds in my couple decades of wellness and working with people. And what I find is you can help people lose the weight, but again, if they don't work on their mindset, then they'll gain the weight back, right? So we have to go from, I take a macro view with my clients. I'm looking at not just the physical and biochemical aspect of how they are. I'm listening for how they're speaking about their life. I want to know how they're thinking about their life. I want to know the relationships that they have. I want to know, like, almost every detail of my client. And then from there, we build a plan of mindset and resilience and nutrition and all of that. Yeah, because you can't, it's not in a silo.
It goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Do you find if you fix their mindset first, that their healthy habits come after easier?
Absolutely. And this is why. So you can actually change your biochemistry in 150 to 300 milliseconds. That's literally me taking a pen in my hand, dropping it to the floor. And in that second, you can shift your biochemistry, which means that you can shift how your body is physically feeling. Our brain is the strongest pharmacy on planet Earth. You can recruit feel-good hormones and you can recruit stress hormones within the snap of a finger. So when we start to shift how our mind is functioning, we start to shift how our biology is showing up. And it's a really fascinating science, and it's physics. And so, yeah, there's a lot of energy work that we do, and that energy work starts with the brain and the mind.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that fast.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing is,
quick.
so like every time, and then what I work with my clients on too is, okay, so a thought comes in, right? A thought based on your past or whatever, a thought we don't want. And we keep telling ourselves, if you tell yourself, oh my gosh, I did that thing again and I just didn't want to do it. And I've tried so hard and I can't lose the weight. Okay. As I'm saying that, you can feel my energy with that of disappointment, of stress, right? Versus, oh, I did that thing again. That's interesting. Silly me. Let's push that to the side. We don't do that anymore. Remember, Anna Marie? We don't do that. You're good. You got this.
Right.
That feels
How you
so...
talk to yourself.
Yes, it feels so different. So if you want to cement in a brain that is happy, that is successful, that is abundance, that is filtering the world to see every opportunity, you get to meet those thoughts with positive energy, with positive emotions. When you connect a thought with an emotion, that is like this, that is cementing it in.
Yep.
So we have to be very mindful of our emotions and then our thoughts. And oftentimes, like say someone is dealing with PTSD, the body physically remembers before the conscious mind comes on to play. I've actually had my brain scanned and I have a PTSD brain, so I know what I'm working with my brain. And really, I don't have a PTSD brain. I experience a PTSD brain. So what I do is if I do have a physical response, which are very far few and in between, because I've been reprogramming my nervous system, my brain, all of it for a while now, I meet it with a positive emotion over it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Body, you still remember. You're so smart. I see that you still remember that. Thank you for remembering that to keep me safe. But I am safe right now. I love you. And so it's shifting the way that you're talking to your body from a mind. It's like your prefrontal cortex, your executive function thinking, versus meeting it with an emotional response from that amygdala brain, that emotional brain that is reactive in survival mode.
Right. And then that way it don't follow.
Right. And
So
then
you stop it there.
you don't cement it in anymore. You don't give it any more power.
I love it.
Yeah. It's really great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
It's been a journey to get there, but
I
you know.
So at the beginning of your journey, I'm sure it wasn't easy to kind of switch your own mindset. So at the beginning of your journey, what are some things you kind of faced as far as challenges of trying to switch from this thinking to that thinking? Because at the beginning, you thought traditional medicine was going to fix you and help you. But then you had to unlearn all of that and then learn, oh no, this is actually what I was looking for.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was so many things. I think another aspect was I started to pay attention about the people around me and how they were talking about their own lives and what they were up to in their lives or what they weren't up to in their lives. And it was like interesting. So if I'm hanging around people that are partying, that are going out, that are drinking, that are, you know, cheating, they're just, I mean, I'm not saying they're bad people, right?
Right.
I mean, good people cheat, good people drink, good people do bad things. It doesn't mean they're a bad person, but we make bad decisions. And the more we're around people like that, the more likely we are to make those decisions as well. And so I started to pay attention to the influence around me. And I started to realize, like, I want to be happy. I want to be whole. I want to be successful. I want to be all of these things. But yet I look around and the people around me are not like that. So I had to start doing personal growth, going to seminars, paying for it out of my pocket. Now, you know, my employer at the time when I was employed, they weren't paying for it. And I would ask people, hey, do you want to go to this seminar with me? And they'd be like, I have to work. And I'm like, well, I do too. I get it. But I'm going to like invest in a day to myself. And they're like, oh, well, my work won't pay for it.
They were not into it.
And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, we get to invest in ourselves. And so, you know, so there was that. So paying attention to the people I was around and then shifting the rooms that I was allowing myself to be in. And then the other thing is I've always been really good with finances and money and just generally speaking, investing. It's always fascinated me. Probably because I came from, you know, not a wealthy family. And so I thought, well, I want to one day be wealthy, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I remember there would be families that, you know, they would go on spring break trips. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. They would go to like these exotic places. And I was like, oh my gosh, like their whole family went. Like that was like wild to me, like that they could afford to do something like that. They would go out to dinner. They would do these things that I was like, someday they would get dry cleaning. I would like, oh my gosh, people get like their clothes dry cleaned, like professional. Like these were things that were mind blowing to me when I would like witness it and see it. So anyways, I started to think about, okay, every time I put money in the bank, my money grows. And so I thought, like my body, as I'm rewiring, my body is like a bank. Every time I put something good in my body, it accumulates more good. Every time I put bad in my body, it accumulates more bad. So I just thought, you know what? If I make these little changes, right? Shifting the rooms I'm in, shifting the conversations, stop gossiping, stop going out and drinking, exercise because I love my body, not because I want to punish myself. All those little investments over time were filling me up with the most abundance. And so I thought, if I just continue this over time, one day I will be successful and I will be happy and I will be whole. And so there's this idea that, in our culture that it's a fast, quick fix. Now, in holistic health, I always tell people, give it 60, 90 days, 3 full cycles, 3 full 30-day cycles. And what's been amazing with what I've created is I have learned how I can essentially kind of collapse time and get them results a lot sooner. So we're getting results in 5, 7 days, some 21 days. And these are results that are life-changing. And it's putting them on the path of, I can keep doing this. And so that was the other thing. It was like, I had to keep just staying the course. And when I got off course, I would just say, okay, we get to go back on course, right? Not beat myself up over it. And so essentially, it took me about a decade of my life to reprogram my brain, reprogram my nervous system. Yeah. And so now it was like, okay, cool. About 7, 8 years ago, I started learning about this technology and about different therapies that essentially I'm like, nobody has to take a decade like I took to reprogram my brain and biology. I can help people do this like so much faster.
Especially if you can guide them. Because that's what we miss a lot of times, where we're trying to reprogram and relearn. Do we have no guidance? So you researching, you try and error, and you growing. Okay, this works a little bit better. So you try and error.
Yeah.
I think that's what it takes a long time.
And then the other thing is too, it is getting those professionals to help you. Mm-hmm. Like the professionals that have been where you've been and that can help you take quantum leaps a lot sooner. So for a while, I thought I had to do it all on my own. And that was like a huge, I don't want to say it was a mistake because it was necessary for where I'm at in my life now. But now I realize, like, Rudy, it's like, I am not great at stretching and doing the things that I need to do. So I get to go to Rudy and say, hey, Rudy, these are my issues. And then he'll tell me all the other issues I have. And then I show up and I see him twice a week, and he makes me do things that I don't otherwise always do on my own. Right. So it's also acknowledging, hey, this is a thing I'm not my best at. This is a thing that I'm like, okay, I know I need to do it, but I haven't been fitting it in. You hire someone to help you get there, right? So it's like, I don't like paying taxes, but I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to hire a CPA. I'm still, right? So there's that other aspect of it where, we get to recognize the things that don't bring us the most joy in the world, but yet we still get to show up and love ourselves enough to say, yep, I'm going to invest in myself and do that. And then it helps you get better at it. And then it's like, no big deal. Like now it's like, I go see Rudy and I'm like, okay, this is a thing. And I do it and I'm happy to see him and happy to show up. But the beginning is always challenging, right? But people need to really work on investing in themselves. And
right, because like you said, it saves you time. So something that you could have did on your own, it would have took you a couple years. You hire Rudy in a couple months, 60 to 90 days. You're already seeing the difference.
Yeah, I remember one of my brothers. All my brothers are very successful, but my oldest brother, I remember when I was at his house and I was babysitting for him, and he was gonna like buy something or do something, and I'm like, well, you can look up a coupon and you can like do this and do that. And he looked at me and he was like, I don't have time for that. My time is money. It actually will cost me more time to spend on figuring this out than to just like go do this thing. That always stuck with me, because now I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's things in my life that maybe I don't know how to do, but I want to figure it out. But instead of trying to figure it all out on my own, now I'm like, who can I hire?
Just pay for somebody to do that job for you.
Right. Because time is money. And time is energy. Money is energy.
Right.
So once I started to realize like the energy exchange of getting someone's knowledge, and then when I get their knowledge or they teach me something, the only exchange I can give them sometimes is finances.
Right.
Right. And where other times it's like trading what I do for what they do. Right. And there's an energy exchange there, which is really great.
It's very important.
Right. But the thing is like when I was down and low, I didn't have any energy to give. Right. And so some people feel like I have no energy to give and I'm broke. I don't like, what am I supposed to do?
So you're just taking energy and draining people.
Correct.
At that point.
Yeah. It was wild. I'm actually embarrassed. Anyone that knew me back then, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well, that's how you got here, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We got to go through those.
You have to. Yeah. I mean, I don't know a single person that gets through this thing called life without trauma and drama and hard things. And it's being grateful for those hard things.
I was about to say, is the grateful thing about it is that you grow out of it, because you see a lot of people, they go through life and they don't grow out of it. They live their whole entire life and then they end up dying like that, and they never were able to snap out of that cycle.
Yeah. And I think that the reason that happens is because this is a thing. When we recognize that there is a shift that we need to make, it takes energy. It takes something to make that shift. It also takes something to let go of the labels that we've been given or given ourselves, right? Like, so back when I quote unquote was experiencing depression, the doctor would say, you have depression, you have ADHD, you have dyslexia. Well, those were things I experienced. I don't say that I had them. Those were things I was experiencing. But in that time of my life, I could use my depression for every excuse. I'm late for work. Oh, I was so depressed. Like I couldn't even get out of bed. Oh, I was so depressed that this happened. Oh, another relationship didn't work out. It's because I'm just like so tired and I don't have the energy for it.
You're kind of embedding that depression in you even more.
Yeah.
Without even noticing.
Right. So the more we stay in our labels and allow them to decide for us, then the less energy we have to give and the less we have to do. So once somebody admits that or lets go of the labels, then they have to show up for themselves. And so sometimes we only repeat behaviors because we're gaining something. So I was only repeating that behavior because I was gaining sympathy from other people. I was gaining attention from other people. It wasn't the right attention.
Right.
It wasn't, but I was doing that because I was gaining something. And I had a neuroassociation that, any attention is good attention. That is not true. I don't believe that anymore. Right. So, yeah, I mean, you live and learn.
So what are some of the exercises you do with your clients to start shifting that mindset for them?
Well, we get to show up, and if we have an idea or something we truly want in our life, and you're running this dialogue of all the reasons why you can't, I always say, okay, what if that wasn't true? What if, your mother-in-law actually really liked you, right?
That's a big one.
Right. So what if you let go of the idea that your mother-in-law doesn't like you and, she's always, talking about you or whatever. What if you let that go? What's possible? Well, what's possible is a better relationship with your spouse. What's possible is less stress in your body. What's possible is more energy, free family outings and meetings, gatherings. And then my boss doesn't like me. Well, what if that wasn't true? What if that wasn't true? How would you show up differently if you were like, my boss loves me?
Right.
I guarantee you would show up with more energy. You would be doing more things at work. You would be noticing different things. You would be showing up in such a different energy. And so asking yourself, what if this wasn't true, opens up your prefrontal cortex, which is your executive function thinking, for you to see what's possible. But we won't, a lot of times people won't do that. They'll stay in the story, and people create a lot of stories around a lot of things. I just did a workshop last Friday with a bunch of business owners, and I talked through this exercise about the stories. So, you could tell me like the last thing that you were struggling with, and I guarantee you there's a whole story around it, a whole story. And we create this story to validate all the emotions that we've made up. Versus if you actually took bullet points of what really happened, then you're left with just like, oh, that happened, right? So the mother-in-law that said the snooty comment, and she always says snooty comments, and, she's always rolling her eyes, and, she never makes time for my kids, but makes time for the other siblings' kids, and da-da-da-da-da-da, right? It's like, you make up this whole story around it when really what happened was your mother-in-law made a comment. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Now it's what you choose to do with that. It's the meaning you choose to attach to it.
Right.
And that's what gets you all in disarray with your biochemistry and gets you all flustered inside.
Right.
So when we're struggling with something, I'm always like, okay, to the client, one, what if this wasn't true? What's possible? And then we explore what's possible. Then we go in, okay, you just told me this whole story. Let's bottom line what really happened. And then once we do that, it's like, oh my gosh, another good one is like your boss sends you an email and asks you for whatever. And it's like, oh, my boss is always putting this pressure on me. They always send me an email. Nobody's helping me. Everything falls on me, blah, 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 right? Dude, your boss just asked you to do something.
Right.
That's it.
That's part of your job.
That's all that happened. That's all that happened is your boss said, hey, can you do this? Or can you get me this by? And you just made a whole story up around it, around how your boss doesn't like you, about how you always have to do everything and da-da-da-da. So we make up that story to validate how we're feeling when, again, it's just an emotion. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's true.
Right.
And so you free your body and you free your mind when you can let go of the stories around it.
Wow, that's huge. That.
Yeah, there's some good ones.
Yeah.
We use those.
Yeah.
So, obviously, when you went through your own journey, you eventually healed yourself. And at some point, you're like, aha, I think I can help people. At what point was that in your journey where you had the aha moment of, I can actually help people and turn this into a business?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was always there. I knew from a young age that I wanted to help people feel happy. And I remember I was in like the 3rd grade and I was at my aunt's apartment and she had an exercise video, like step aerobics on the TV, like a VHS. And I remember watching it and I thought, oh my gosh, these women are happy and they like are so healthy. And I thought, this is so cool. And as a kid, I had so much energy. And, for some people would say I had too much energy. And I was always, I'd always find myself in trouble. And so when I started to do athletics and things like that, that was like a really good outlet. But I did always have that feeling inside of me that I'm always in trouble, something's wrong with me. And that depression that I had experienced started when I was in high school. Yet on the outside, I looked normal. Like no one would have ever guessed. And so there was a lot of shame around that. And like, I should be happy. I have friends. Like I have a roof over my head. I'm an athlete. Like I have all these things going for me. And so it wasn't as common as today to talk about our mental health and how we're feeling and whatnot. So when I turned 18, first I got fired at Dairy Queen. I have to back up. I got fired at the Dairy Queen at 16 years old. And then I got a job at hospital in their rehab and wellness center. And I would clean the equipment there, and I would watch these fitness classes going on live, no longer VHS. They were live right in front of me. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. These people are happy. They're high-fiving each other. And I'm like, I want to learn how to do that. The moment I turned 18, I was signed up for a weekend course to learn how to be a group fitness instructor. So I got that certification. And my senior year, at the end of my senior year of high school, I started teaching fitness classes before school in the morning, which is crazy because I was an athlete all through, and I would have, my athletic events. And then I went on to college. And in college, I started the personal training program at Western Michigan University. And then I was teaching group fitness classes, and my classes would always be super full. And so I always had this desire to help people because it would bring me so much joy to help people feel good and confident in themselves. And I've always had this ability to see people beyond how they see themselves and get these little intuition, these little knowings about people. And, I've really dove into that more as an adult now and where I'm at in my life. So this is just something that's always carried with me. And then when I hit my rock bottom, it was like, okay, you get to heal yourself first. You can continue to help people, but this is here to serve you because you have bigger, fish to fry. I have
bigger calling.
I have a bigger calling of versus just lose some weight and jump around and smile. Because, deep inside, people were hurting. And I could feel that when I was with people. I could feel their hurt, even though they had a smile on their face, even though that they were, acting as everything was fine. I could feel that with people. And so once I was working through, my own issues and everything, and got really focused on holistic health and started studying the brain and realizing oh my gosh, there's so much of this that can be reversed. Started learning about the history of how holistic health was literally destroyed in this country, and looked back on history. I started to realize, holy crap, we have been taught and led to believe that our health and well-being is just kind of like Russian roulette. It's kind of like, okay, well, you're getting older, so you're going to come down with something, as if our health was outside of our hands at a certain age, right? And I thought, oh gosh, well, my depression is just something that happened to me, right? Maybe because I was bullied, or maybe I was born with it. It just happened to me. No, it was because of choices I was making. It was because of how I was thinking. I had full control over my depression the entire time,
right? But
I didn't know that. So it was like, okay, how do I show up in the world and help people realize they have way more control, they are way more powerful than they have ever even been led to believe? And guess what? There's these healing modalities that can help us collapse time and get there faster. And you can show up and live the most abundant, great life that you choose. It's for the taking. And so with that, I was like, I really wanted to have a space where anyone from all walks of life could come into, and nobody knows why they're there. I see people with issues with addiction. I see people with issues with depression, anxiety, PTSD, thyroid issues, digestion issues, feeling lonely, feeling like they don't even have a place in the world. Nobody knows why someone is coming into Happy Whole You. And then I have people of everyday health that want to just come in and have good health and prevent aging and just be at the optimal level of where they can be. So we see the gamut, and you would never know who or why anyone was at our place, because it is just such it's like a spa for your brain and your body.
Right. And
everybody's walking in and it's just good times and it's great. And there's some deep work going on and there's some preventative work going on. And so it was just a dream come true to be able to open the space. And then we moved 2 years ago from 750 square feet downtown Bakersfield, California, to 2,500 square feet. And then in 2026, we'll have a second location on the west side of Bakersfield.
Nice.
So yeah, it's been a journey. We've actually opened up 4 Happy Whole Yous across the country. When COVID hit, 2 of them were sold to doctors over COVID. And then one was recently converted from a Happy Whole U to like a mobile wellness center on wheels, essentially, in North Carolina. So,
Nice.
yeah, so it's been a journey.
A great journey.
It has been, yeah.
So now that you're at your place now, what do you find as far as like the manifestation? So I know we've talked a lot about that on our own kind of our training and stuff. When did that kind of become part of your journey, the manifestation of think of it, to have it, and then to work towards it?
Yeah, so I remember when I was pretty down and out, and I was watching Oprah. And on there, they were doing something with these things called vision boards. Like people would literally take a board and they would cut out pictures of a magazine, write words on it, write numbers on it. And they were talking about how these things were coming true. And I'm like, yeah, all right. Like, come on now. Like, this is crazy. But then I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? These people are so vibrant and so happy. Why don't I give it a try? What do I have to lose, right? I had actually just had my son, and I was going through postpartum depression after having him. And again, it was another lesson in my journey, which I can show up and help women now because of that when they go through this. And I decided, okay, I'm going to make this vision board. So I make this vision board, and I put on there little pink booties, because I thought, well, I just had a boy. It'd be great to have a girl someday. Put those on there. I threw on this picture of this gal, super ripped out, 6-pack, teaching like fitness videos like online. I was like, I would want to do that someday. Then there was this photo of this gal running down like this road, and it was like fall leaves just covering, and it was like a tunnel of leaves that she was going through, like trees. It's super beautiful. I'm from Michigan, so I miss the fall. And then I put a number on there. Oh, one day when I make $100,000, I will have made it. Right? So all of those things I put on there. I literally did it just on a sheet of paper. I put it right next to my sink, and it was just there. It wasn't like I looked at it every day and thought, oh, yay, you're going to come true. I just put it next to me every day. Every once in a while, I'd look at it. 10 months after I had my son, I get a phone call. It's like, hey, these doctors want you to shoot these fitness videos for their patients so they can have like this online portal. Would you be willing to do that? And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. So I did that. So that happened. And then about 2 years later, my husband and I purchased a cabin. And I remember I went on this jog, and I went on a road. And as I was going down the road, it was fall, and all these trees and leaves were covering me. And then after that, I did a few things to make more money and beyond my W-2. And I looked at how much money I made when I went to file my taxes, and it was like 100,000 and some odd cents.
Nice.
Ooh.
And so it was pretty, yeah, it's just like crazy. So literally within 5 years' time, everything on that vision board came true. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll just keep doing this again. And then I started to dive in. I was like, why is this? And then I started to learn about quantum physics, and I started to learn about how everything is energy, right? If we go inside every cell in the body till we can't go any further, the only thing that's left is what's called a quantum atom. You can't touch it. You cannot see it. It is just literally energy. So that indicates we are more energy than we are physical beings. And then I started to learn about Dr. Emoto's work with the consciousness of water. So what that was is essentially you have two glasses. One glass of water, you just speak love and light and kindness to this water. The other glass is hate, dread, anxiety. And what they would do is they would look at these water, they would freeze them, and they would look at it under a microscope. And the water of love and light and just joy, it had a vibrational frequency, and it would that was more vibrant, and then it would freeze in a beautiful like snowflake form, right? A beautiful harmonic image. And the dread and the fear and all of that water would freeze in a chaotic, it'd just be like, like that's not even a shape. It's nothing. And it would be a low vibration. So with this research that Dr. Emoto did, we know that we can speak to water, and it'll hold frequency, it'll hold energy in either a beautiful structure, or in a chaotic structure. One being more vibrant and one being essentially more dead. And we can see this. And so if our body is on average 70% water, what do you think your thoughts are doing to your body? What do you think your words are doing to your body? So when I learned about this, like, this is fascinating. This is so crazy. And so then I started to learn that everything is in the quantum field. It's called quantum entanglement. So I was actually explaining this at a luncheon I was at yesterday, because this lady was talking. She's like, okay, my daughters do this thing called vision boards. What is that? What is this manifesting? What is it? Like, I don't get it. So I tried to explain it in, 30 seconds or less, which is hard. But it's like, okay, everything is in the quantum field, right? Like, we have Wi-Fi around us right now. We can't see it. But guess what? With our device, if we send a signal into the field, on our phone, we can get TikTok, we can get Instagram, we can get anything we want. And our phone is not attached to anything. All it's doing is sending a signal into the field, and it's pulling back whatever the signal is we're telling it we want. So our brains, our bodies, our beings are literally antennas sending out frequencies into the quantum field, and your body, your energy, your frequency will pull that very thing that you are thinking in, which is a very positive, wonderful thing. However, oftentimes people are thinking about the things they don't want. And the field, the quantum field, doesn't know yes or no or do or don't. So what I mean by that is, if I say, okay, think of a big elephant. Think of a big elephant with its baby elephant right next to it, and they're just there at the zoo. You're thinking of these two elephants. You're thinking they're gray. They have these, they're just so cute and they're so big and all these things, right? And then if I tell you, okay, quit thinking about that elephant and the baby. Don't think of an elephant. Don't think of a mom and the baby elephant. Don't think about it at all. Get it out of your brain. You're like, I can't. I'm still thinking about it, right? Because all you know is elephant. That's all the field knows. The field only knows elephant. So if you're like, oh, I'm always broke, all the field knows is broke. And you're going to find that not only are you financially broke, you feel broke in other areas because you're saying broke, broke, broke. And so we have to really pay attention to that, because that is essentially manifesting. Whatever you're putting out in the field is
Energy.
what's going to come back to you.
That energy.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just telling a good friend of ours yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Our friend Tim, and he's great. His mindset's right, everything. But I've noticed, like, when he talks to himself and he messes up, like, oh, I'm such a dumbass. And I'm like, hey, can I tell you something? And it's like, yeah, what is it? I was like, there's something you need to stop doing. He's like, what? I was like, when you mess up, don't tell yourself that you're a dumbass, bro. Like, you're smart. Like, don't say something else, like you messed up or something, but don't talk to yourself like that. It's not good.
Yeah, it's like you found another way not to do it.
Right. And putting yourself down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the worst thing that we could do is not have integrity with ourselves. Not do the very things that we say we're going to do for ourselves, to diminish ourselves, and to lower who we are to fit in.
Right.
And a lot of times people do that.
Yeah. I've done it.
Yeah. We all
anymore.
have. Yeah. We've all done it. But it's like, if everybody showed up in the world and allowed themselves to live at the vibrational frequency that's possible within their soul and within their calling and within their being, this would be a very different planet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, much different.
We'll be in another
different.
higher vibration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easier said than done. Just because of all the society pressures kind of programs you in a certain way, from school to social media to what you see on the news to what you see on TV shows, what you see on movies. So it's always ingrained. If it's not here, it's there. If it's not there, it's here. And over and over and over until you're like, I guess that's reality.
Because you're allowing that in your field. Like, it's so, like, I don't watch the news, and if I do, it's very sparse. I just had a massage before this, so I still might have lines on my face. And I was talking to my masseuse, and we stepped outside and it was like really windy. And I was like, oh, I wonder if it's going to rain. And she's like, oh yeah, my client said that it's probably going to rain today and tomorrow. And I was like, oh yeah. Like, cause I don't even know what's going to happen with the weather. Cause I don't even watch the news half the time. Right. So that was also another thing when I was doing the reprogramming of my brain. I noticed I was listening to talk radio. And so on my way to work, I started listening to Christian music. And that was just one change I made in my car. And it was like, I'd be in my car for 30 minutes a day back then before children. Oh my gosh. Now I'm in my car like 4 hours a day. But that was one shift I made. I started listening to Christian music versus listening to talk radio where they were complaining about the government and complaining about, politics and all the bad things that were going on in the world. And that alone started to change things for me. So really, and I noticed too, this is kind of random, but when I was like low and depressed, I painted all the walls in my house brown. And when I started to wake up to who I really was, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to like pull out this brown carpet. I have to like change this whole house. And I remember my husband, yes, my husband came home from work and I had pulled up the carpet and he's like, what in the hell is happening? And there was like concrete floor, and I'm like, we're going to paint. And so I painted like everything like white and blues and bright. And and so now it's like, it's really interesting because we won't get into it, but color therapy, like colors carry vibrational frequencies. And that's, if you go back to the water of love and joy and abundance was like a rainbow of color. It was like beautiful, vibrant colors. And then when you looked at the hate, the dread, water, all of that, it was like grays and darks and blacks. Yeah. So it was it's very fascinating to me, like all of it. Yeah.
And then I know we talked even about when you went to that last seminar. From that last seminar, was there anything kind of that gave you validation of what you were doing even further, and anything you learned new there?
Oh my gosh, so much. I probably told you some of the things.
Yeah.
So I went to a conference. I got to meet Bruce Lipton and quite a few other people that study quantum physics and how it relates to the body and the mind. And it was a very science-based conference. It was really fascinating. One of my biggest takes from it was this, what's going to happen, and we're all going to be faced with it one day, is that we're going to be asked to put implants in our body to do different things that's going to affect our biochemistry. And so that was like such a social experiment, psychologically and biochemically. It's a bioweapon. And people did the best they could with the knowledge that they had. But the problem is they weren't given all the facts. They weren't given.
They didn't want you. They didn't want you having them.
Right, because it wasn't just a vaccine. This was a gene therapy, right? So it was messing with our genetic code. And so what I think is probably going to happen is that, because frequencies can impact biology. We know this because of our thoughts, because of our words, and love carries a very specific frequency vibration that vibrates through our cells and through our tissue and influences how our biochemistry is responding, right? Just like hate carries a very specific frequency vibration that impacts tissue in a not so great way. So what I believe is probably going to happen is there's going to be technology that comes up to us that's like, hey, implant this in your body. And once we do that, I think it's going to take the humanness outside of us, because from what I've experienced in my life and where I was at and where I've come to realize that our body is this innate, intelligent being. And we think we're so smart and can go in and hijack things and do these different things to put medicines and things in the body as if the body's going to heal. And that's not happening. So we know this with like pharmaceuticals, that majority of pharmaceuticals are not curing and solving the underlying issue, but yet we're taking them to change our biochemistry. And now as technology is getting further advanced, I just think those pills are going to look more technological based. They're going to look differently. So anyway, so that was one thing that was discussed at this conference. I kind of went on a tangent there, but I just think people need to be mindful of like your body is your body, and you need to be very mindful of what frequencies, what energy, what you're allowing into your field, into your body, because it is, again, it's really, really important. What else did I tell you about the conference?
About the sacred geometry that they went around the sacred geometry art.
Oh yeah, that was really fascinating. So they had an expert come in and was talking about sacred art, and I mean this is art from
like the flower life,
thousands and thousands of years ago. Yeah, and the energy around it, and how like certain like sacred geometry and certain images have these spiritual meanings to it, these spiritual connections to it. I believe that we can access the spiritual world. Each and every one of us can. And then you can access it even further through design. Because again, everything is energy, right? So is your energy calling in the spiritual world? Is your energy calling in God and Jesus and, you know, these higher beings to support you, to help you heal? Like, right? This is why prayer works so well. When we pray, we send out a vibrational frequency to an individual or to the world or whatever. In miracles, we call them miracles, they happen, but that is God. That is energy. That is the quantum field adjusting to affirm the very desire you want, the very thing that you're putting at the forefront of your mind. And so, like, that is very, very powerful. But yeah, so like if you play music and you put sand on like a boombox or like a
piece of metal or something.
Yeah, like you put on the metal and you play like music of like love, the sand will bounce into sacred geometry, into a beautiful form. But again, if you played that music and you didn't have the sand, you wouldn't see it. But that music is doing that to your cells in your body. It's doing that to, you know, the water in your body, to the energy in your body. And so even just looking at a painting or looking at sacred geometry, it's vibrating a specific frequency that is either enhancing your biology and enhancing your life, or it's causing dread, dis-ease in the body. And so, yeah, that was a really fascinating thing about the sacred art, sacred geometry. And I had never thought about that before.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's all in the music, the hertz and everything that we can't see.
Yes.
I think love is like
528 hertz.
And then there's like 432, which is like abundance, the universal frequency of everything.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was Kanye West was talking about how some underlying beats in a lot of like rap music and different music is actually frequencies and hertz that cause disarray in the body.
Oh yeah.
And so, which is
they do that purposely.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So this is where, you know, bioweapons, this is where, you know, our military has the ability to send a frequency to blow people's eardrums out.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like there's frequencies that can be used in military to hurt the biology. And so I don't know. So I just think like there's going to be stuff that comes up and like we're thinking, oh, this is cool. It's going to make my life easier. But I think that like we're getting to a point where it's actually hurting us more than it's helping us. I mean, just look at kids with cell phones. Look at ourselves with cell phones. And the disconnect it's giving us from a human to human contact. So, you know, I just think we need to be really careful moving forward because we're at a really...
I think they're already coming out. I don't know exactly what it is, but I guess they could implant it in you, is like with the needle and everything, and just for different stuff.
Switzerland has it.
Yeah.
There's a company where you can swipe your hand and it opens the door.
But that's wild.
It's tied to your car.
Not happening.
It's tied to your car, so then you can swipe your car
like,
and it opens the car.
Like say pay at the store, You don't ever no longer need a wallet or a phone. You just put your palm of your hand, and I think they're already bringing it over here.
Yeah.
it started in
Definitely
Switzerland.
no.
Well, and that's okay. So like, yeah, when you go to airports and you go in and you can like go into a store and you just walk out with whatever. Yeah. Like,
Just charge your card.
again, I think that's very dangerous. And there's all these invisible frequencies that are going on around us, and it's going to impact the biology. That's why whenever I travel, the first thing I do when I get to wherever I'm going is I put my bare feet in the grass to help ground myself, to decrease the inflammation from the flight, to set my circadian rhythm back with the earth. I'm actually flying on Thursday for a keynote back to Michigan. And, it's Michigan and it's winter and I'm just like, oh gosh, but I can put my hand on a tree.
Right.
Again, that's going to help ground me, but I'm crossing my fingers because I heard it's going to be like at least in the 40s, and I can handle that.
Yeah.
I can handle that for a hot minute, but yeah, not like 3 below.
So then the question is, how do you tell this to people? Because a lot of people don't know this. So, and a lot of people, if you tell them this, they're like grounding, something simple as grounding yourself.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what is that? Or I want to do that.
doesn't
Like,
work.
they don't believe it. That don't work.
Yeah. So I really honestly let go of the need to convince anyone of anything.
Right. That's a big one for me. That was the hardest thing for me growing up. To just, do your own thing, but the people that do want to learn, they ask. And that's the people you want to help for sure.
Yeah. So those are the people that, that are curious. It's okay if you don't fully get it and you're kind of questioning it. Like the old me, I would want to like tell everybody everything and how great it was.
Same.
And like, and then they're like, they're not ready to hear it or, they're not ready to take part of it.
They look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah.
Like, who's this lunatic?
Yeah.
You hear this fucking motherfucker over here?
Yeah. So now my approach is like, I already know that God is going to bring in the people that need me when the time is right, and I'm there for them. And I know that I'm not for everyone, and that's okay. But the most important thing is that I stay in alignment with my true authentic self. And the more I do that, the more people I help, and the more people that
you gravitate with your own energy.
Yeah.
You gravitate that.
And then they're going to help people. And it's like this huge ripple effect. So, so I just, right now, it's like, I'm just at the point where, people that want to show up and work with me, like, let's go. Let's do it. Let's take quantum leaps together.
Like that. Yeah.
And the ones that don't, that's cool too. Bless you. And you're going to figure out your way. And that's okay, right? There's space for everyone. Yeah.
What about the people that are lost?
Yeah, and I think that the people that are lost, they're on the right path, even though they're lost, because that path of them being lost, I truly believe,
I'm gonna wake them up.
Will wake them up, right? So we have to go. So this is another thing. I believe that we have this deal with God. Whatever you believe in, something bigger than all of us. I think we can all agree upon that.
Yeah.
So there's something bigger, and I believe that I had this conversation with whatever this being energy is, and I was like, okay, I will come down to this thing called Earth and experience the polarity of good, bad, right, wrong. I'll experience that to give my soul some lessons, and I'll agree to going through periods of depression. I'll agree to being sexually assaulted. I'll agree to having 2 children. I'll agree to having a marriage, having struggles in my marriage, working through my marriage. I'll agree to starting a business. I'll like all of these things, right? And I agreed to it. And now that I know that I agreed to it, and everything happened for a reason, and everything was on purpose to serve not me, but the highest good of all. How can I be mad?
Right.
How can I be lost anymore? And the moment I ever feel lost or have a question of what am I supposed to do next, what I do is I'll go to prayer. I'll go to what is my future self? What do I know from my soul level of where I'm supposed to be, how I'm supposed to be, how I'm supposed to show up? Is this the greatest good for all? And I'll ask for signs. I'll ask for clarity, and it comes.
Oh, yeah.
It totally comes.
You're 100% right.
So I think that anyone that's lost, like, get excited because it was on purpose.
It's part of it. It's part of the journey.
It's part of it, and you get to serve a higher purpose as you get to the other side of that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I love it. I
yeah.
think you're 100% right there.
Yeah.
Good one.
So it's essentially changing the perspective on what happened and saying this happened to me, this happened for the reason for me to grow, because I can help someone who went through that same situation a lot easier and relate to the next person who's lost, but then I can bring him out of being lost.
Yeah, because if you never go through it, well, you ain't never going to be able to find yourself.
So I think that's why you're very good at helping people, is because you've been through a lot of stuff. And through your experience, you've been able to say, okay, when I went through this experience, I can do this for them. And most likely that's going to help them.
Yeah.
It's kind of, is that kind of correct?
Yeah. And I think, so one exercise I do with clients, this is a really powerful exercise I love doing, is we kind of go back on the timeline of life. You go back on your timeline and you can drop into the first experience that comes to mind. And if it's a traumatic experience, let's go there. You drop into that. And then what we do is, from dropping into that experience, we extract the value gained, the lesson learned, the good thing from it. So what I mean by that, like, I'll give an example. When I was in the 2nd grade, my teacher called me out in front of the class. I was not a good reader. I would actually read ahead the words if we were reading aloud, because I didn't want to get made fun of, because I wanted to know how to say all the words. But I could read a whole page and then I would forget everything I read. I could read, but I couldn't comprehend what I was reading. And I remember this day in class, she called upon me and I had read, but I couldn't comprehend. And I just remember she shook her finger at me and was like, you're never going to amount to anything if you don't learn to read and focus and all of that. And in that moment, I processed, you are stupid, you are not smart.
Especially at that age.
Yeah. And that sat with me and that followed me throughout junior high, throughout high school, throughout college, even as an adult. And I would purposely get in trouble to get kicked out of class when it became reading period, when it came time to read. But here's the thing about that. So getting to reprogram that I'm smart enough, that I have an amazing brain, and that my brain is working for me, not against me, but also extracting the value gained. The value that I have, I am never going to judge someone based on their education.
Right.
I am never going to say, oh, well, they don't have this, so that means they equal less than, or whatever. The other value gained is, I can't tell you how many certifications. I have my PhD in natural medicine. I mean, I've gone all the way you can go in education, which is valuable because it taught me to keep questioning, to keep looking, to keep seeking, to keep finding more information, which is a value, right? And I know I don't know everything. I only know the tip of the iceberg. I have so much more to learn. So I'm not showing up as someone that thinks they know everything. I also show up with other people and get really curious about how their brain works and what they know, but never am I like, what's your education level?
Right.
Where did you go to school? Oh my gosh, what have you accomplished? Like, from an academic standpoint, like, that to me is like, I don't know. It's like, I feel like street smarts. Like, I feel like there's so much value in that.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I would never call anyone out or try to put them on the spot when I thought that they did not know something. Right. I think that's, like trying to, I got you one, right? Like, I don't roll that way. But that was such a traumatic experience for me as a 2nd grader. And now that I can go back, I'm like, thank you to that teacher. What a blessing that teacher was.
Let go.
Yes, it was so great. But there's so many people out there that are probably like, oh yeah, my teacher did this, or my teacher did that, or, whatever. And she was doing the best she could with what she knew. And she probably thought she was helping me. And she actually did, right? It's just, I didn't register it at that moment and at that time. So if other people can go back and take the traumatic experiences that we've had in our lives and extract the value gained and leave the emotion in the past, you're going to show up in the present moment with all this knowledge, all this value gained, without the emotional baggage that is pulling you down.
Right.
And it's so powerful.
Wow.
But that's also, I would always say, that's also the hard part, is changing that perspective. For a
That's
lot
why
of
you work with a
people.
professional,
Yeah, and that's why,
right?
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
which makes
to help you
sense.
get it, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because it's like, yeah, because your brain has been so used to registering that. And it's like you're used to registering it having a certain meaning. So that neural pathway is strong. So now we get to rewire a new neural pathway that is stronger than the one you had, because that one you had isn't serving you. So we get to rewire a stronger pathway that's actually going to serve you. And so it just takes time. It takes repetition, and it takes self-discovery and being in conversations about what's possible, and abundance and joy and love and compassion.
Yes.
And not being in conversations about what happened to me and my life sucks because
Becoming
of
a
this.
victim.
Yes. No more victims. None of us are victims.
No.
We've had times where we have been a victim, but that was in that one moment, in that one time that we were victimized. If we choose to carry that victimhood into the rest of our lives, that's us re-victimizing ourselves,
Right.
which is, that was really hard for me to take on with a couple things that's happened to me in my life, because I want to keep blaming that person and keep being mad at them. But the moment I say, bless you, thank you for teaching me, I hated that moment, but I gained so much from it, and I'm so much more powerful now because of it, and you can't ever take that power away from me again.
Oh, yeah.
I show up in a very different energy.
Yeah.
I love it. That's why you're a
It's a
good
good one.
doctor. Because I'm sure a lot of the clients at first, their mindset is like, this is too much. This is overwhelming.
Yeah, and
So
it is
then-
overwhelming,
So
and
then
it
that's
feels like a
why-
lot. Yeah.
Because then you're able to break it down to them at a very simple way of like, no, take this thought and just start here.
Yeah.
So you're kind of giving them a point of reference for them to go back to and start, which I don't think a lot of people have that reference of like, oh, I never thought of it like that. Like I'll train clients and I'm like, try thinking of it like this and this
Yeah.
and this, until one day they're like, oh, it finally stuck.
Yeah.
And changing the way you say something, but saying the same thing, but differently.
Yeah. It is. It's perspective shifting. And I think it's so beautiful how one conversation can change everything for one person in the positive way. But then there's also the one conversation that can change it in the negative way if you allow it.
Right.
Right. So this is where being in conversation, with what's possible is so powerful. I've seen and witnessed clients do things that they otherwise thought that could never happen for them, or it would never be
Right.
available to them in their life. And it's like, let's just explore it. Let's just see if this could be possible. If you could rekindle that relationship with your grandchild, with your sibling, with, your child, or whatever, or you could start this business and you can tenfold your business. You went from 10 million to 100 million.
Right.
Absolutely, you can. You could do anything that you want.
Yeah.
And it's just wild how, again, one conversation can shift everything for us.
yeah.
So we get to be very mindful of who we're having conversations with.
Yeah, I
Yes.
do find that, especially after we have very good conversations, whether it's at your center or at training, I'm always like, oh, got another nugget.
Yeah, it's all the nuggets.
No, but yeah, I definitely agree. Being around the right people does make the biggest difference, because I've been around the bad crowds, and like you were saying earlier, it does drain you. And eventually you start thinking that way, and you're like, oh, because of this, me, victim.
Yeah.
But then I learned when I started hanging out with people with the opposite mindset, I'm like, oh, it's not that bad. And then
Yeah.
you start picking up that mindset, and you're like, okay, there's actually higher possibilities of what I can do. This person I'm talking to has gone through what I went through, but worse, and they're successful. So what I went through wasn't as bad, so I can be in their shoes. So it's changing the rooms you're in and having the proper
Yeah.
conversations as far as, is this person going to help me become better, or is this person just talking to talk? So that's how I've been able to vet people I listen to and kind of hear people for just to listen to them if they need an ear, but then also understanding, is this person someone I should talk to and say certain things to or not? Because you don't know what they will say next, or the type of person they are.
The kind of energy they carry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's always trusting my gut too, as far as when I meet someone, and kind of let them show me who they are and not seeing them for who I want them to be, because I used to do that, and that would get me in the most trouble I've ever been. And I'll oversee certain red flags that I'm like, if I would have saw that flag that I thought they're just that one time, but no, that's really how they were, it would have saved me a lot of headaches.
Yeah, for sure. I think too, the other thing that was really powerful to learn when it comes to relationships and being with other people is we cannot witness something in someone else that we don't see in ourselves. So if you're seeing that you feel like people are always using you, you probably used to use people. If you see somebody living their dream life and you're feeling jealousy and you're like, oh my gosh, they're always so successful, and you're like looking at them like, what the heck? Guess what? You have that within you too, because you can't witness it in them if you don't have it within you. So I believe that like jealousy is an inner calling to say, hey, you can have that too. You can do that too, but you got to do it in your own way. You're not going to do it exactly like them. You get to choose to do it in your own unique blueprint. So when I started learning that, I started to pay attention to assumptions that I was making about people, because when we're making assumptions, it's because we witness that within ourselves. And that's a very good learning tool.
Yes.
It's really, really fascinating.
Yeah,
I like that one.
Yeah.
I think it's true.
Yeah.
'Cause I've paid attention to that.
Yeah. It's crazy because I actually had a friend that was like, yeah, I like feel like this person is using me. And do you ever get that feeling where you think people are using you? And I'm like, no. Like, and then like we were just talking about it, and it was just like, I'm like, no, I don't get that feeling, but again, we can't witness something in someone else that we don't see within ourselves, or that somebody close to us was experiencing. And so we felt like it was happening to us.
Right.
Because maybe they were doing that thing or whatnot, right? So, but yeah, so it's just so cool to be self-reflective and not judging. It's like, we got to quit judging ourselves. It's like, okay, this happened, I felt this way or whatever, and just be like, wow, that's very interesting. Versus thinking I'm a bad person or why'd I do this? Like, don't get stuck in that. What's done is done. The past is the past. We get to use the past as lessons and extract that value and show up in our present moment and move forward, which is powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very powerful. That's something I've learned through my life as well, is letting go of the past. I think that's
a big one.
That's the hardest thing, I think, for many people, is to let go of the past, because they're just so attached.
Yeah.
And they're just like, because of this, I'm like this now. But because of that, I can become the person I am now, and changing that perspective.
Yeah. The past gives them validation to continue to behave how they're behaving.
So it keeps them in the victim mindset, essentially.
Yeah, either the victim mindset or you can flip. If we can re-envision a future, we can re-envision our past.
Yes.
So if you can change, if you can change the meaning you're giving your past, you get to change what's going to happen in your future, right? So if you change from victimhood from your past to empowerment, you just stepped into an empowered being and a future of empowerment.
Yes, you take your energy back.
Yeah, like 1,000%. It's super cool.
Oh yeah, love it. That's a big one. I've been studying that a little bit more, probably in the past couple of years. Where you can go back and like something dramatic that happened to you, go back and rearrange that and look at that positive outlook and take like those positive nuggets you're talking about. And so just by doing that, it changes your future.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. It's cool. And you have the power to do that, which is like, we've never been led to believe. That's why I feel like, you talk about the Matrix, and, the Matrix is ultimately to so people don't realize how powerful they are. People are so powerful.
Yes.
And if we all stepped into the power that we have, like I even know with myself, I'm like, come on, Anna Marie, like you are so much more powerful than how you're showing up. Like I'm always like, come on, right? Because it is, I have to like get out of that matrix, get out of that programming. And I find myself in it each and every single day in that matrix. And then it's like, oh, I have to come online to my conscious self and say, nope, you're going to make that phone call. You're going to say that thing. You're going to do the thing that isn't comfortable. You're going to do the thing where someone could question you. You're going to do the thing that feels right for you, even though it may make other people feel uncomfortable or come at you, because I have to stay in alignment with who I am.
Yes.
Because a lot of things that I think
Be true
of,
to yourself.
yeah, it's like, okay, that kind of goes against the matrix. Like, I mean, what I do each and every day in my center in Bakersfield, you know, it's not the norm. It's not. And people are healing themselves every single day. Yes. And, you know, the space that we have helps them recognize that and get there, and the tools and the things to do that. And yeah, I always say, if I go missing someday, everybody know I love my family. I love what I do, everything. The matrix is going to come and take me.
Yeah.
But like seriously, like it is super powerful. We're all super powerful.
Oh, yes.
No, yeah, I've definitely seen since I've met you, and I've been going to the center every week, pretty much weekly. I have seen a much different the way I think. It's a lot more clear and less friction with the doubt. Because the doubts come, but it's a lot easier to talk that doubt
When you're conscious of that.
So just being more conscious, going to the center, the vibe's amazing. The workers are amazing. You're amazing, obviously. And all the stuff you offer there does make a big difference. And I've seen it in my business, helping me with the stress levels and reducing that down, managing it way easier, not overthinking certain things and letting my thoughts kind of just go.
Yeah.
Especially with all the different conversations and tools I've picked up just from talking to you.
Yeah.
Whether we're training or we're at the center talking or whatever it is. So I definitely want to say thank you for all the center you have. It's definitely made a big impact in my life and my business as well.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for honoring me and my business and recognizing that. And that's the power, because you work with people every day and you're taking those elements and you're feeding it to them. And then they're feeding it to people. And then they're feeding it to people. And that gets me so excited in my life, because it's just,
Chain reaction.
It is. It's that ripple effect that we don't even realize that we have. We're all putting little ripple effects in the world each and every day with every thought, every word, every conversation. And so it's like, how much more positive ripples can we put out than negative ones, and just keep going with the positive?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the things you've taught me, I've taught my clients. And they're like, oh, this actually is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to start wrapping up everything. So for the last piece, what's one piece of advice you would give to someone, whether it's in life, fitness, mindset, or all of the above?
That's a good one. I would say, don't believe every thought you have. And if it is a negative thought, ask yourself, what if this wasn't true? What's possible? And just start there. That's what you can do for yourself. And then I think the other thing I would recommend is that, take inventory of your relationships, take inventory of how you're spending your money, take inventory of, the things that you're bringing into your life. And the way you do that is you do look at where your money goes. So if you were to take your credit card statement or statements and you were to filter them to see where your money's going, eating out, like video games, whatever, I guarantee you that gives you a good representation of your overall health, wealth, and vitality. And because money is energy, and whatever you're spending your money on is transferring that energy to you. So I think that's a good kind of tangible, right? Because people need the tangible to really reflect and look at. So that I would say actually those two things is ask yourself, what if this wasn't true, and what's possible if it's not true? And then look at where you're spending your money, because that's energy. And then everything you're spending your money on is what essentially you're consuming. And what you're consuming is what's effectively either causing dis-ease in the body or causing healing in the body. So
I love those too. I'm going to use those.
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Anna Marie, for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
So we'll catch you guys on the next episode. What's your story?